Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Well, it's good to be back. I've taken a few days off, obviously, for Christmas. I hope everyone has had a very happy Christmas holiday. I hope you've been able to spend it with your families and loved ones, and again, just had a great Christmas. My boys have been able to come into town from their military technical schools that they're in right now. So it's great to have them back, and again, just trying to spend a little time with my children. So today we're going to start right off with our coverage of what is essentially Battlefield Earth. Yep, Battlefield Earth. We're going to cover the ongoing war in Ukraine. We're also going to take a look at what's happening on the U.S. border. And I wanted to jump right over to that issue as we speak. The floodgates are open. The floodgates are open. Tens of thousands of illegal aliens are now entering the United States daily. What's interesting is that activist groups that are being sent down to assist these illegal aliens, many of which are wearing shirts that say Joe Biden for president. Joseph Biden for president. So if that doesn't give you an idea that there is a strategy behind opening the border, allowing the floodgates to enter, and at the same time providing direct government support in terms of money, healthcare, what have you, for these illegal aliens, 90% of which are fighting age males, not from Mexico, not from, in many cases, South America. In many cases, these individuals are from North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and it's concerning. And there are individuals in the U.S. Border Patrol, as we speak right now, saying what is happening is incredibly dangerous. We don't know who is entering the country. We, the United States. Very little assistance is being provided to Texas, Arizona, New Mexico in terms of federal resources. Compounding that, in many nation states, there are flyers being handed out to prospective immigrants, illegal aliens. I don't want to call them immigrants because they're not immigrating, that are inviting them into the United States. And again, I've talked about this before. This is going to change the dynamics, the demographics of the United States a lot quicker than many people fully understand. Your country is going to eventually, your country here in the United States is going to turn into the shithole country that many of these folks have come from. And then again, compounding that is the threat of terrorism. To discount the prospect that something could happen here on the scale of what occurred in Israel, some of the large-scale terrorist attacks that we have seen in France, we are not, here in the United States, immune to that. And we are exposing ourselves at a much higher rate with these tens of thousands of illegal aliens coming into the country. If you get a chance, read a book called Day of Wrath. Get a chance, either book on tape, it's on Audible, or purchase the book Day of Wrath. And given the scale of what's happening on the U.S. border, I could foresee something even greater in terms of ferocity occurring inside the United States that would make the book Day of Wrath look small. It's coming. It's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. The Democrat-controlled government here in the United States, if they wanted to, could shut down the U.S. border in about 2 weeks. We would mobilize the U.S. military, and we would completely shut down the border. Not one wall, multiple walls. It has to stop. We, as a country, have to secure the border. Like an iron wall, it has to be shut down. So we'll see what happens. But go check it out for yourself. 90% fighting age males, tens of thousands entering each day, changing the United States forever. Now, going back to the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. The Russians continue large-scale offensive operations both within the vicinity of Avdiivka, further south towards Mariinka. We know right now the Russian 150th Motorized Rifle Division is continuing an attack in a westerly direction from Mariinka. Compounding that, we are continuing to see Russian fixed-wing aircraft attack targets throughout Ukraine, and especially along the line of contact. Now, within the last 48 hours, we have seen, or we have heard reports of the possibility of multiple Russian aircraft being shot down. Obviously, we have seen the reports of the 3 Su-35s being shot down, and then I believe the next day, another 2 Russian aircraft were being reportedly shot down by the Ukrainians, a Su-34, and a Su-30. And again, I meant to say 3 Su-34 fullbacks, 1 Su-34 the next day, and then a Su-30. Very few of the Su-35s that the Russians are using have actually been shot down thus far. Now, what is bringing down these Russian aircraft, if in fact these Russian aircraft are being brought down? Well, we don't know at this moment. There's a lot of speculation that it could be a Patriot system that has been moved closer to the front lines, whereas before, most of the Patriot systems that the Ukrainians were using were designed to protect Kiev. And the Ukrainians continue to state that they are essentially shooting down any cruise missile and or ballistic missile the Russians are launching towards Kiev. Now again, none of this can be confirmed in terms of Russian aircraft being shot down, whether it's been shot down by air defense systems or the possibility of direct U.S. intervention through covert methods using stealth aircraft. That would not be outside the realm of possibility. And there's different ways the U.S. could initiate plausible deniability in terms of using those aircraft, stealth assets, F-22s, F-35s, against Russian aircraft. We know that the Ukrainian military has been greatly damaged over the last several weeks by Russian glide bombs. The situation on the eastern bank of the Dnieper River has been, the Ukrainian situation has been damaged by the use of Russian fixed-wing aircraft against targets on the ground, as have Ukrainian targets along the line of contact running from Orikhiv east all the way to Bakhmut, west of Horovika, Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, east of those locales, all the way to Kupiansk. The Russian Air Force is becoming much more active in terms of being used in this conflict, especially against a lot of these stationary targets that the Ukrainians are using as defensive outposts against the Russians along the front lines. Now, because of the use of these fixed-wing aircraft and the amount of damage that the Ukrainian military was taking, could the United States, could the North Atlantic Treaty Organization have authorized the U.S. to become more active in the conflict, to try and shut down the use of these Russian strike aircraft against Ukrainian targets? Would not rule it out. Now, obviously, we're not going to know well into the future, many years from now, if that is actually the case. Meaning the direct participation of U.S. air assets against Russian air assets. We don't know that yet. But we will. But again, the Russians are continuing this very methodical offensive against the Ukrainians. We continue to hear the Ukrainian military is running out of ammunition. They are running out of volunteers and conscripted personnel to fight on the front lines. It is becoming a very precarious situation for the Ukrainians. We've also heard reports now that the Ukrainians are looking at Ukrainian males who have fled the Ukraine, and they're trying to get those fighting age males back into the country, back into Ukraine to fight. We know that, and this has been talked about before, the Ukrainian military was asking for another 500,000 conscripts. The problem is for Ukraine, where at the beginning of the conflict, there were a lot of volunteers. And initially, the Ukrainians were even turning away some of those volunteers. But now they have a complete lack of volunteers. Most of the individuals now joining the Ukrainian military are conscripts, meaning they don't necessarily want to join the military. And I've talked about this before, that the average age of a Ukrainian soldier has dramatically increased. No longer are we seeing 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24-year-old males joining the Ukrainian military and fighting on the front line. We are seeing 40, 50, 60-year-old men now fighting on the front lines for Ukraine, with millions of young Ukrainian males have fled the country towards Western Europe or their locales. So we will continue to report. We will continue to watch the situation very closely. The Ukrainian military, again, is hitting a stress pinnacle in terms of the pressure that they are under. It's not being talked about a lot in the mainstream media, but things are not going well for the Ukrainian military right now. And we will continue to report, observe, and as always, thank you for joining us. Have a great holiday, everybody. Good day.